Welcome to our latest White Pod. I'm Stephen Lynn, your host with White Labs, an e-commerce internet marketing agency. Our guest today is Erica. Erica, feel
Hi.
free to introduce yourself and let our viewers know about yourself and your background.
Okay, great. My name is Erica Campbell, and I am the owner of a brand called Be a Heart. And I started Be a Heart really in 2015 as a freelancer. I was a designer. Was really like in the heyday of the calligraphy,
Mm-hmm.
hand lettering boom, and so I was doing a lot of that. And it was a mix between working for I was living in Los Angeles, so I did a lot of things for the event industry in LA, but then I was also designing things for companies in different products that they were selling with my designs on them, sort of like a licensing deal. But oftentimes I was I was really working on what they wanted it to be, and I had a couple specific brands that I was working with. And then as my personal life was changing, I got married and was pregnant, and just realized like the demands of keeping up as a consultant, and often in the event industry,
Mm-hmm.
um, having to show up at, it was like people want calligraphy done in
Yeah,
person, and realizing like that wasn't going to work really for motherhood for me.
yeah.
And so I thought, well, I have been making things for other people. I could just make them myself and sell them. And so the very end of 2018, I got married. 2019 beginning, we were pregnant. And so that was really the time that I was transitioning from being a freelancer to specifically and only really designing my products and then having them produced in China and setting up the e-commerce website and kind of running with that. So it's been, I would say, since 2019 that I have been doing this as it is today.
Awesome. Can you tell me more about the brand and your products?
Yeah. Yeah. So I am a Catholic designer, and I kind of weighed between more of like a Christian audience and heavily Catholic. Um, and so I was seeing this niche missing of having products that were for a more modern family, a modern person. And I was seeing all these beautiful designs when I was living in Los Angeles that for kids or for your home, and there was nothing like that reflected in my faith beliefs.
Uh-huh.
And so I basically started, I would see what was selling in these shops around me, and I would design new modern, so these old concepts, these things, religious art hadn't really changed in a long time, and started putting them on things that I was seeing. And the whole idea was that me as a modern woman, as a new mom, would happily have these products in my home, and they wouldn't scream like Catholic. It wouldn't be like this overtly uh, in your face kind of thing. And so my first product was a swaddle blanket. This was when I first tried to make these, I couldn't find a manufacturer that was making them. And I was like, the swaddle blankets on the market are really ugly, first of all.
Yeah,
Now there's a million and 10.
yeah.
You can there's good ones everywhere. But at this time, there really wasn't. And so I would check regularly for like trying to figure out. And I had never really made products before. So I was trying to figure out, like, I went to the fabric store and bought muslin fabric, and I was like hand stamping, and I was like, okay, this is not sustainable. Like, I can't produce, the cost of the fabric alone is going to be more than like as much as I can sell it for. And then one day finally this manufacturer popped up, and so it was the first thing I tried to make on my own. And then from there, I mean, our swaddles and our quilts are still some of our top sellers. Um, and throughout the year, the great thing about babies is that they are born all year, and so you
Yeah,
don't run
true.
into like a lot of our other stuff. We do about 50% of our business in Q4, I think, like a lot of companies, but we're really heavily like a Christmas, Advent, basically from end of October through December is a huge amount of our sales. So that has posed some issues of cash flow and things like that that
Yeah.
I have had to navigate and learn, and I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest. And so, like, certain things that I'll say in my journey of doing this, and I have a lot of products. So we're not just like I'm an artist, so I want to make a million different things all the time. And having to learn this past year of like how to not produce every product idea that comes into my brain. But like one of our best sellers is an Advent wreath.
Okay.
And you would never think like an Advent wreath could provide so much for a business, but no one had rethought the Advent wreath in a very long time. It was just kind of like, this is what you can get, and here it is. And so we sell a lot of those. And then most recently, I had this idea a couple of years ago to do bandages, like Band-Aids.
Oh, wow.
And because I saw the rate that my kids used them. And I didn't produce them because it was like, I will say, basically, I've had this business growing through the same exact time frame as I have had children and been pregnant and been postpartum multiple times and been pregnant. Like, the difficulties for people who don't have kids. It's a very hard thing, newborn life. And so that balancing act has been tricky too.
Yeah, of course.
And so I didn't ask questions, but she's like, you have to make 10,000 of them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot sell 10,000 Band-Aid packs, I think she just meant like 10,000 actual bandages, and we could have, maybe that would have been, once you divide those up into tins, it would have been a different thing. So like a year and a half later, I was like, I'm just going to try and find a different manufacturer. And I thought they would sell decent, but like they're like $6 items. So
Wow.
You're not thinking like, oh, it's going to be this huge thing. And they've really taken off in a way that we were unprepared for in our inventory numbers, and then trying to keep up with the actual production of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, our Band-Aids, they say Jesus heals on them. And they like are so this past year for people, I think like, the interest of how are people doing this. So I had done this mastermind, and really what they, I didn't need to do the mastermind. I could have just watched or listened to their podcast. But the best piece of advice that I got from it was adding more channels. So for like, when I started out, when I was just doing freelance, I did sell a few prints, and like I had a calligraphy kit on Etsy. And when I started my website on Shopify, I stopped selling on Etsy because I was like, well, now I have my own website. I don't need this. And their whole idea was like, you should have as many channels available as possible because it's just going to grow. Like, you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. And so this past year I worked to build back up our Etsy shop. We went on Amazon. And then, of course, everyone's on Facebook, Meta shop, Instagram shop. And so that has really helped diversify our sales channels, really. And it's interesting to see that like different products sell better obviously in different venues. So yeah. So anyways, very long-winded, like the products are diverse. And a lot of it is just like trial and error. I think too, some things that I think are going to sell really well are real duds in the marketplace, and we have to figure out how to offload those. And then you have things that take off, like an Advent wreath and Band-Aids. And we'd come up with a concept. I had made some dolls because I wanted them for my own children.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a marketing thing, we're like, oh, it'd be cute if you used her instead of an elf on a shelf,
Yeah.
and really talked about the story of Christmas, of Advent, with this Mary doll. And so from that was born Mary and the Mantle. So the next year, like, people went crazy on the internet. So the next year I made a whole kit that people can buy the kit. So you know, it has the book and it has cards, and that continues to be something that year over year does really well. And so, yeah, it's just like kind of all over the map of what we create.
Awesome. So I'm sure I know the answer to this, but what is your target audience?
Yeah, so our main audience really are women between the ages of 25 and 40,
Mhm.
with younger kids at home. And then our secondary audience is really like the 55 to 75
Mm-hmm.
range of women who are grandmothers, who want to pass on their faith to their grandchildren. And a lot of times, um, often, women my age are not practicing any kind of faith.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to church anymore. And so we found that grandmothers want to reach their grandchildren, but don't want to like offend the
Yeah.
the moms. And so it's something like, really, I try to put beauty first, so that it's something like you want in your home because it's beautiful in and of itself, whatever it is. So yeah, those are our two audiences.
Awesome. What makes you, you could say, different or better than your competitors?
Mm. Gosh, I think different. When I first started, there really was nothing else like it in the market. And since then, I will say a lot of women, a lot of moms, are creating um, products that have become competitors of
Mm-hmm.
mine. And I think what is different is that I'm all self-taught. Not that they aren't, but like, I didn't go to business school. I have a sociology degree. I didn't go to art school. I've really been teaching myself all of
Great.
these things really along the way. And so even production, and I went to China in 2016, I think, and understanding um, understanding the production world is so important, and being able to adapt. And so I think what makes me different is, like, you know at the end of the day, um, the way that I can see the world and adapt, and really I'm doing all the things. Like, I've had a team of women who have been helping me, and this past year we are in January downsized again, because I was exhausted and stressed out, and my business was no longer fun, which is
Mm-hmm.
not why I started it. But I think that there, my the part of my story, so part of building the brand and where Be a Heart comes from is really from the story of my own life. And about the time that I started it, I had gotten sober, and a lot of what I was sharing was just my own journey through, like, being a young professional, getting sober, navigating life,
Mm-hmm.
and now as a mother, being able to share that. And so, um, I think, oftentimes founders can want to stay out of the story.
Yeah.
Like, it has posed its issues of, like, being the face of it, or having it like revolve too much around me, which I don't entirely want. But being able to share vulnerably, and that my designs come from that place, from my own life, and my own desires, I think has created a buy-in from a lot of different families,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to, like, adapt with the trends rather than get stuck, because that ultimately is what happened years and years and years ago, and no one ever tried to do something different. and now trends change quickly, and so it's like, okay, can I change the colors that we're using because this is what we're seeing around, in Target, or and so I think that there is a difference in being able to adapt quickly too, because we're small, and make those changes.
Awesome.
If that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. It's a great answer. So you've mentioned your products multiple times. What are your best selling products?
Yeah. So, well, right now our best selling products are these bandages. They have just blown everything out of the water, which is a real shock. And then year over year, our quilts are some of our best sellers. And like, one of the issues that I'm focusing on this year is our inventory issues, because things used to be able to be produced pretty quickly with a quick turnaround time. And since COVID, everything has changed, and shipping times. So like right now we only have one quilt in stock.
Wow.
And so that really tanks like if it's our bestseller and we can't sell it. So sometimes that skews the numbers. And then it at the end of the day is really seasonal. So right now we're in Easter, trying to ramp into selling Easter products. So our wooden puzzles do really well. And we have these rosary kits that I made, and last year they came out and we sold out so fast. So we're waiting on those, just like anxiously waiting on those to come in. And then we kind of go through the summer slump of just slow sales. And then we kind of just gear up for the holidays. And most of our holiday products are our bestsellers,
Awesome.
for the whole year.
I can imagine. It's like, I can imagine. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So what's the future plan for yourself and your brand?
Yeah, so I'm in a really interesting transition of, trying to figure out what I want from it. I had never gone into it imagining that it would be what it is today. And I had a lot of people. I had a business accelerator, and like their whole thing was, you can be the biggest and the best, and we need to reach these huge revenue numbers and hire this team. And so we were growing, and I had to really step back, because at the end of the day, I had become so miserable in running the business, and I had all of these people to manage, and our revenue had increased, but so had our operating expenses, and our profits were shrinking based on that. Like we weren't running into the issues of the amount that we're spending to hire people was not actually generating more revenue at the same rate. Gotcha. And I have 2 young kids, I'm pregnant, and I have this business, and I got to the point in the fall where I was like, do I just want to shut it all down? Like, should I just sell all the inventory and walk away? Is this worth it? And then I was like, well, I don't particularly want to do that. I just am not happy in the state that it's currently in. And in this season, which I really have been trying to understand that there's seasons of the business, there's seasons in our lives. And this season in my personal life is not one of like huge business growth. And so I made the decision to cut back on the team, and do things myself again, which has been an interesting and in a lot of ways really good for me to kind of just scale back a little bit and recognize that I actually am not losing any revenue by having let go of those people. And how can I reevaluate our systems and the way that we pass on work, or like what is happening, and then really leaning into our bestsellers instead of feeling, I'm an artist at heart. I love I love to design. So like always want to come out with new products, and it's proving to be like, you know, there could be too many things to choose from. They're a little bit all over the place. So really kind of streamlining this concept of leaning into what is working and then just sell those things rather than needing to keep producing new. And so that has really freed up my time because I spent so much time creating the new products. It's like, how can I use what I have and maybe, you know, like today before I got on the call, I'm working, our puzzles do really well.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a million designs. Let's just make some more puzzles, and trying to figure out how to make my life easier, and have a business that for right now can support my family and like put us into a good position and de-stress some,
Mm-hmm.
and find my joy in it again. And so beyond that, I don't have huge plans. Like I can't, you know, I think that there is the ultimate question for a small business, like what do you want of it?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I can see, not to be like I will just say the roles of family life are very different for many women and founders. And so I have been talking to a lot of other women who, like, we try to grow at a rate where like we didn't as if we didn't have family life obligations, and we're all kind of burnt out. And so it's like, how can we take a step back and reimagine what a business looks like with better balance and understanding what those roles are, and like, you know, having to take off a whole week because the kids are sick and we don't have daycare, or like in 2 weeks we have spring break so I can't work during spring break, and to allow that to kind of dictate things. And so I don't know what life is going to look like in 5 years when maybe all my kids are in kindergarten. Will it be different and I want to scale up? But I think ultimately I've had many people coming to me wanting to and pitching these great ideas and how they're going to help. And in my young, like, one, in a lot of desperation because I was drowning, I was like, okay, yeah. And nothing ever really worked out the way that was pitched. And all of a sudden I just like didn't have any profit, you know? And so I think for me right now, it is, the plan is to step back, slow down, take some breaths, and with the goal of continuing to generate the same amount of revenue with less hands in the pot.
Awesome. Makes total sense. Are you do you have an agency that helps you, or you do this all yourself?
No, I do everything. Well, currently I let go of two gals who are helping me do like some graphic stuff. And then but currently it has all come back in-house, which means literally me doing this.